Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome back to Python for Programming for Economics. So in the previous video, we learned about input, output, type conversion, and basic meaning of string. So today we are going to move one step ahead. So we are going to learn about how to actually work with string. Okay. So remember, string simply means text. In economics, strings can be country name, state name, sector name, indicator name, currency code, country code, and a structured code of GDP 2026, for example. So today we will learn indexing, slicing, and many useful string methods. So do not try to memorize everything in one single go. Understand each method, what it does, run the code, change the value, and observe the output as well. So let us start. So the first initiative example is string indexing. See, suppose we have country equal to India. Okay, so the word India contains 5 characters: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, why? Because Python gives a position number to every character, but what is the key instance over here? Python starts counting from 0. Okay, so that's the reason India is 0, I is 0, N is 1, D is 2, I is 3, and A is 4. Okay, so this is known as zero based indexing. Okay, now let us write this code. If you see, we write country equal to India. Okay, print country 0, then print country 1, print country 2, print country 3, and print country 4. So ultimately the output is what? India. Okay, so we are printing each and every index value that is present over here. Okay, now what does this country 0 over here mean? See, it means the character at the position 0. Okay, what is it at position 0? The character is I. Okay, similarly, if we try for the country 4, so you will see that it gives us A as an output. Okay, so this becomes useful when we work with the economic codes as well. Okay, for example, let's say when we write currency code equal to INR, so over here if you see, when we write print currency code 0, print currency code 1, and print currency code 2, so the output is what? INR. So we are trying to print the index value of INR 0, that is I, INR index value 1, that is N, and index position R is what? 2 over here. So the indexing basically means give me one character from a particular position that is available. Okay, similarly, let's move to the next section, that is negative indexing. See, Python also allows us to count from end. Okay, this is known as what? Negative indexing value. So again, let's take the same example, India, and if you see here, if you just see, A is mentioned as -1, I as -2, D as -3, N as -4, and I as -5. Okay, so now if we just execute the code, and if you see the output, if we try to print country of as a complete variable and -1, you will see we are printing A over here. If you print -2, it is nothing but I over here, that is this position, and when you say -3, ultimately it is printing what? D over here. So the most useful remember is what? -1. See, -1 always gives the final character value that is available at the end. Okay, now for this let's consider one more example. Over here if you see, we have written series code underscore code equal to GDP 2026. So let's print series underscore code -1. So ultimately we are going to get 6 over here. Then if we print -2, we are going to print 2, and when we say -4 colon 0, it is empty. Okay, so the last line says what? This last line is actually using for the slicing purpose, so which we will properly understand in a moment soon. So for now, just remember, positive indexing starts from beginning, whereas negative indexing starts from end value. Okay, now with this, if you see, there is a next entity, that is index error. Now suppose I have variable that is country equal to India. Okay, and with this what I am doing is, just let me just clear the output and focus this over here. See, I have a variable country equal to India, so there are 5 characters, right? INDIA. So now there are the valid position is what? 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So now imagine I write print country. Okay, just let me just undo this scenario. Okay, and let's print country at position of what, index position is 10, and let me execute this particular position. We are getting what, it is known as an index error. Okay, so this is intentional. Okay, first of all we are putting this error by default from our side. So now what is happening, whenever you get index error, always check how long the string is, secondly which index you are requesting for, and third is whether that index actually exists in the specific value or not. Okay, you have to make sure that you are always processing the index value that are available at those particular instances. Let me just comment this scenario and execute the code again, and for the index position country 4. So now you will see it is printing what, it is printing the fourth position index value that is available, that is A. Okay, now with this let's move to the next point, that is string slicing. See now indexing gives us what, one character, but what if I want to have more than one character? So for that we will use what, slicing method. So the syntax for slicing is text square bracket start colon stop. So the start, ultimately there is one important to consider, the start position is always included and the stop position is always getting excluded at the point. Okay, so the stop position is not included. So let us take for example indicator code over here. Okay, so indicator underscore code equal to GDP underscore 2026. Okay, so now let's try to execute the scenario. Let's talk about the first scenario. Let me execute the code. It says what, indicator code GDP 2026. Then I am saying what, indicator underscore name, in which I am calling what, indicator underscore code, and I am passing a slicing of 0:3. Okay, now let me just process this entity and execute the code. See what I am getting is, it is starting from 0th position and going up to what, 0, 1, 2, and it is not considering the underscore value that is present over here. Okay, so ultimately what is happening, it is printing, it is giving us the value of what, GDP itself. Now let's move at the next point, that is 4:8. Let me just uncomment it and uncomment the print part and just comment the previous entities. Okay, and just take a guess. Now here what is happening, we are passing indicator underscore year equal to indicator underscore code 4:8. So ultimately it starts from index value of 4 and continues up to, but not including the 8th position that is available, right? So if we just execute the code, what will happen, it is going to print 2026. Okay, so this is very useful for as a economic indicator code. Okay, so there are more slicing example over here. Okay, so just let me execute everything for you at a one single go. If I keep at first, that is empty :3, so there is nothing before the colon, it means what, start from beginning. Okay, and that's the reason we are getting output as what, GDP. The next is 4: ultimately what is happening over here, so there is nothing after the colon, it means what, start the index 4 and go till the end. Okay, and that's the reason we are getting the output as what, 2026. So again that the second instance is what, the empty instance. Okay, means take the complete string. Whenever you have nothing at left hand side and nothing at right hand side, ultimately it is taking what, all the instance that is available. Okay, and if you talk about this special instances, that is empty: 2, so it means what, it selects every second character. You do not need to memorize the step value right now, just understand that slicing allows us to select the selection of string over here. Okay, and that's what is happening, it is considering what, every second instance that is available, like G is taken, then D is not taken, P is getting considered, then 2, then 0 is getting skipped, again 2 is getting selected. Okay, so this is how it works. Now there is a next section which talks about what, dot strip function. See, now we have come to our first very useful string method, that is dot strip function. Suppose the data is country, okay, in which if you see we have what, it is space like 1 space, 2 space, 3 spaces, then India is written, then again 1 space, 2 space and 3 spaces. Okay, so there are unwanted spaces before and after the India. Am I right? Okay, now let me execute the first line of code which says clean underscore country. This is a variable in which we are calling the country variable in which we have stored the spaced India dot strip function. Okay, now what is happening, we are then after that we are calling this specific dot strip function. Now what is it? It removes the extra spaces at the beginning and at the end of the code. Okay, and why this is important? See, imagine an economic data set which is containing what India written in a complete sense, then India there are some kind of spaces at the beginning, then India written, and there are some kind of spaces at the end also. Okay, to us like all three might look same scenario, but Python may treat them as what different string instances. Okay, so this dot strip function is very common for cleaning, performing the cleaning operation. Okay, so now if we just look at this, let me just execute this. Okay, let me just uncomment and print this. Okay, so this is the original representation of the data, and this is the clean representation of the data in which we have called it dot strip function. So if you see, single quotes are present, but there are no spaces at all at the both the end. Getting it? And here if you see, there is a function called known as REPR function, which is used to only make a spaces visible to us, and extra spaces can create what duplicate meaning in categories of economic data set. Okay, so repeating again, this REPR function, that is representation function, used to make what, to make the spaces visible to us. Okay, with this let's move to the next function, that is lower function. See, the dot lower function converts the letters to the lowercase, so it is useful before comparing the text that may use the inconsistent capitalization. Okay, so here what is happening, let me just show you example. We have a variable in which we have assigned what, GDP growth, everything in caps, uppercase. Okay, so everything is what is happening, and let me execute the first variable. This GDP growth is showing this variable indicator. If I print this variable, what is going to happen, using this dot lower function, it is going to convert all the instances into what, the lower cases. Okay, so the output is in terms of this particular scenario. So with this, let me just execute another code. We have a country A variable which is mentioned as India. We have a country underscore B variable, it is India with everything in uppercase. Okay, now let me just execute this particular sentences for you. Okay, so in variable A, India is stored, in variable B, India is getting stored again. Second case, what I'm doing is I'm printing country A equal to country B. So what I'm doing here, I'm trying to perform the comparison. Okay, and ultimately if I execute, you will see that I'm getting a false output. Okay, so Python says false because the capitalization is completely different. Okay, this means what, Python consider those two entities completely separate. Okay, but now what is I'm doing is, in the second code, I'm saying country underscore A dot lower function equal to country underscore B dot lower function. Okay, ultimately what is happening, I am storing everything, both the entities in what, the lower case. Okay, and let me just execute the code. You will see output is getting what, true over here. Why? Because both entities have become what, let me just show you the comment form, it has become India. Getting it? So India equal to India, that's it. Okay, so this is useful when cleaning of economic data is getting processed. Then there is a second instance of section number 7 which talks about dot upper function. See, this is completely opposite to the dot lower function, which convert the text into what, the uppercase. So over here if you see, we have a variable in which we have stored what, INR function, INR. Okay, so if I am executing, it is getting stored everything in smaller case. Then I have a second code which talks about IND in smaller case, and now what I am saying is I'm going to print the variable dot upper function, which is going to execute the code in terms of what, in dot upper, and everything is getting converted into what, the uppercase format. Similarly over here, if I just convert this and execute this, I'll find that IND is written in uppercase format. Okay, so this is how it processes. So this is useful for code also. For example, INR, USD, EU or European, IND Indian, and USA. Okay, so codes are usually easier to read when they're stored in a consistent format. Okay, so next is section 8, that is dot title function. See, this method makes the first letter of each word in uppercase. Okay, so let's just directly execute the code and you will see the output that in a, first I'm taking a variable sector in which I am stored financial space services where everything is lowercase, right? So, and there is second instance that we talks about country underscore name equal to United Kingdom. So what I'm doing is I'm calling sector dot title function. Ultimately it is printing what it is providing us a financial service as a outcome, where you will see that the F and S are getting capitalized over here. Okay, similarly if you see with the title with kingdom, United Kingdom, you will see U and K are written in what title case, that is in a caps lock form. Okay, so this is useful when preparing the display label, but there is one small problem. Method like that title function do not understand the economics. Okay, so for example GDP that is written in like let me show you a small example. Let's say GD and P. Okay, so it will not consider everything in terms of this capital. It will convert this into a smaller case like capital G and lower case of D and P. Okay, so we will fix this particular scenario shortly. The next section is capitalization section. See, the dot capitalize function is used to capitalize the first character and make the rest in a lowercase. Okay, so for example let's take an example. We have a variable text equal to financial services where we have everything in what uppercase. So in this scenario what will happen, we will first print the text and to capitalize. So let's see what is happening. So everything is what it is only converting the first letter as capital and rest all other words that are available with a lowercase scenario. Okay, and but if we check for the title case, let me execute this. You will see that F is in capital, space S is in capital, but rest everything is what in lowercase. So this is the difference between the two. Dot capitalize function mainly capitalizes the beginning of the complete string, and dot title function capitalizes the beginning of every word. So word name and label, the dot title is usually more useful than other places. Okay, the next is the section 10, that is dot replace function. So now we have dot replace. Suppose our indicator is GDP hyphen growth hyphen rate. So we may want to remove the hyphens now. Okay, so what will happen, let me just show you the scenario. At first we are taking a variable, we are storing the complete string. Then in second case what I am doing is I am calling clean underscore indicator is equal to indicator dot replace. In replacement if you will see I am passing a string hyphen comma completely empty. Okay, so now what is happening over here, you will see that we are replacing this particular with something known as what empty string. Okay, or the we can say blank. So if I just print the scenario, what will happen, it will search for these entities like control F that we have to do generally, and it will replace it with what space indicators. See, so GDP space growth underscore rate. Okay, so as we discuss, like the GDP should remain in uppercase. So what we can do is we can perform the correction for this particular scenario. So what we can do is we have data. Okay, so with the data, once we perform the replacement, if we just add the dot title function, so ultimately what is going to happen, okay, it is going to provide us the entity in which you can see the G is getting capitalized for every year, also G is capital and R is also capital. Okay, but again if we just look at the scenario, this is good example of why data cleaning is required for both Python and the subject knowledge. See, Python knows how to change the letter, but Python does not automatically understand the GDP, that is an abbreviation. Okay, so next function is split function. So here what is happening, in dot split function, okay, let's suppose we have an example which is written as what economic underscore record, which is a variable in which we are storing India comma 2026 comma 6.5. Okay, so it actually contains three pieces of info, that is country, year and growth value, right? So if I just store this, process this, what will happen, it will store everything in particular variable. Now let me just execute the first part. It says what parts equal to economic underscore record dot split function, and what I'm doing is I'm going to perform splitting at what? At comma instances wherever it is available. So let me just execute this. Now the execution took place, but it is stored inside the compiler. Okay. Now the second step is what? I am going to print the part. Now when we say print the part, ultimately what is going to happen? It is going to print the separate entities. If you see, India is getting separate, comma 2026 is separate, comma 6.5 is separate. Okay, so the comma was used as a separator, so we can access the parts of element which are available. Now let's access the part 0, part 1 and part 2. Let's see, we'll see that India is getting separate, 2026 is separate and 6.5 is completely separate. So the result of dot split is what? It is a list form. So we'll study the list properly later. So for now, just understand the dot split function breaks the one string into multiple pieces. Okay, so this is how it works. Next is dot find function. See, dot find function basically tells us where some text appears first. Okay, so at first let me just execute the code for you. What we are doing is, in a variable we are storing GDP underscore 2026. Okay, now what I am saying is print indicator code dot find where there is a hyphen. Okay, now what will happen if I execute this? It will say at position 3. So let's check if it is true or not. It is 0, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, next is, let's say, let print indicator dot find fetch for 2026. So let's see this. It says at position 4. Right, so here what is happening? It is giving me the position 4 because it is fetching this 2026 string completely starting at this particular instances. Then if I just check for CPI, what will happen? It will say -1. Now what does the -1 convey? It tells us -1 when the text is getting not found. Okay, so I hope you got this particular scenario. Next is dot count. See, the dot count basically tells us how many times a character or substring is getting appeared. Okay, so let's say there is a variable in which we have stored India, comma 2026, comma GDP, comma 6.5. So ultimately what we are doing is we are going to print the first instance where we have data. So it says what? Number of commas, for which we are saying what? Economic underscore record dot count, and what we are going to count? The comma. So how many times commas came? 1, 2, 3. So right, it is printing what? Number of commas as printed as what? 3 elements. Okay, next is number of commas with respect to I. So ultimately I is what? I is appearing once. Okay, and let's see the output. It is only appearing once only. Okay, so this is how it works with different instances. So why can this be useful? Suppose our record should be containing exactly 3 commas, so we can check whether the structure is correct before processing it. Okay, so with this we can process the instances. If we talk about the next section, it is start with function. Okay, so ultimately the start with function basically returns the true when string begins with the specific text that is available. Okay, so here what we can do is just check. We have a variable in which we have stored GDP underscore 2026, in which we are printing code dot start with function of GDP. So what will happen? It will print true if it is starting with GDP. It will print false for what? CPI. So this is the beauty of this particular start with function. Okay, then similarly, just like start with, there is a end with function which will see whether it is ending with specific elements or not. So I will directly execute this. So it says end with function. I have passed a string 2026. It is printing true, and if I pass 2025, it will check at the end it is passing or not. It says no, it will say false. Okay, so this is how it works. Then there is something known as string concatenation. So here string can be combined using what? The plus symbol. Okay, so at first let's say country equal to India. So, and there is another variable in which we are saying indicator equal to GDP growth, and we have a year equal to 2026. Okay, and if you check the third variable in which we are saying, we are calling the variable 1 plus we are adding some kind of string from our side plus country plus in and plus the third variable. So ultimately if we print it, execute this, you will find that GDP growth for India in 2026 means what? All the strings is getting what? Concatenated in a particular one single form. So this must be Like also take a note, this is known as what, string concatenation. And for spaces we need to add the spaces manually from our side. If you see this, we are adding the spaces from our side over here. Okay, so without those space, word could join together and also create some kind of issues in a complete sense. Okay, so this is all from my side. That's all for today. Thank you.